Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you, Alex. Perfect. But you're a bit blurred in the screen. For some reason. And Rabbi Kolbach, your camera's off, eh?
Hello.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so let's start.
No, you're going to...
I can't. Should I come back on or what?
No, I can't tell you that. You look... I think it's a lighting problem. Or something wrong with your screen.
I don't know. Can you see me? I can't see me.
You look very blurred.
How?
Don't know.
Okay. Shall I go back on and start again?
I think what you should do is I think you should give this share, keep it to 15 minutes, and I think you should give the share without a camera today. And let's fix up your camera. Okay.
Okay. Can I start?
Well, it's only 7:59, so give it a minute.
Oh. I don't know how to. Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. So what happened is it just had to be wiped.
Okay, Rabbi Kolbach, you're on.
Shalom, everybody. It's a very special week with being after Tisha B'Av. And this week we read Va'es Hanan, and it is Shabbos Nachamu, the Shabbos of comfort, which is the first of Shiva de Nechemta, the first of the 7 weeks of comfort, which we'll go into towards the end of the shir about the Haftarah. You know, every word of the Torah is holy. Every word of the Torah is written by God. Yet, from a human understanding, if I may say so, there are some that seem to be more telling than others. Va'es Hanan carries the important credos of Judaism, including the 10 Commandments, including the Shema. And the way the book starts is with the 10 Commandments, which are repeated in this week's portion with a few various changes. For example, the commandment of Shabbos, the 4th commandment, in the book of Exodus, the first time it says, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. Remember the day of Shabbos. In this week, we read Shamor et Yom HaShabbos. Observe the day of Shabbos. And our sages tell us that Zachor, remember it, means to honor it, to enjoy it, to make Kiddush, all the positive aspects of Shabbos. And Shamar are the negative, the 39 forbidden aspects. But since it's two different words, which one exactly did God say? He only gave the 10 commandments once. So Rashi tells us, B'dibur echad, he said it in one word. And that, as everybody knows, in the Lechadodi, we say, Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmiyanu kelam yuchad. That the Almighty, in giving us the laws of the 10 commandments, said Shamor, observe, v'zachor, and remember b'dibur echad, in one word. But you may wonder, since in the Torah the sequence is in the book of Exodus, it says Zachor, and only in the book of Deuteronomy does it say Shamor, so why in the Lechadodi doesn't it say Zachor v'Shamor b'dibur echad? And on a simplistic reason, if you look at every stanza in the Lechadodi, you will notice it spells out the name of the author. It says Shlomo Halevi. That was Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, who lived at the same time as the Arizal. And because his name is with a shin, therefore he chose to say Shamor v'Zachor first. It makes no difference. They were both said at the same time. And as the book tells us, he said it simultaneously and repeated each one afterwards on its own without taking a pause. And what does that teach us? We are told that everything that will ever happen in our future, all the way till Moshiach comes, was already received at the giving of the Torah. Every prophecy that would ever be received, we are told, the prophet was tuning in to the infinite word of God that he spoke at the 10 commandments. And Moshe wrote down the 5 books, but the rest of the knowledge was given down orally. And also it was given down in 70 languages. But sometimes they can be forgotten. And for this reason, as we say every day in our davening, Rabbi Yishmael Omer, B'shloisha Osa Devarim, in 13 ways, the Torah is expounded. And it's a very interesting story that he brings down from the Talmud, and I heard it from the Rebbe many, many times, that there was a debate between these 2 great Tanaim, 2 great sages, Rab Chanina and Rab Chia. And they would debate matters of Torah. Rab Chanina said that if the Torah was ever forgotten, I would be able to restore it with my phenomenal powers of analysis and intellect and work out the 13 principles by which the Torah is interpreted. And Rab Chia said, do you know, I worked my whole life to make sure the Torah is never forgotten. He said, I would plant flax, weave the threads into nets, trap deer with them. And then once I trapped the deer, I would shecht it. I would give the meat to the poor, and I would use the hides to make parchment. I would then write the 5 books of the Torah, each one separately on a different piece of parchment. And I would travel to all the villages and the cities. I would teach each book to one of 5 boys. And then I would tell them to teach the book that they learned to the others. In this way, I made sure by spreading Torah, educating children, that Torah will never be forgotten. To which Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, who transcribed this story in the Talmud, said, Gedolei Maasei Chia, great are the actions of Rab Chia. Rab Chia is the one who had the right idea. It isn't just that you master the Torah and you can analyze it and make sure it's not forgotten by your analysis. It is educating the young from the beginning, and in that way, making sure the Torah is never forgotten. And I remember hearing this talk from the Rebbe at Fabrengens, and the Rebbe would say that that's what the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe did too, because you can ask yourself, a man as great as Rab Chia took the time to plant the flax, took the time to hunt the deer and to shecht them. Why didn't he just buy parchment ready-made, and write it and teach it? But he made sure to do everything himself to make sure it is done correctly. And that was the way of our Rabbeim. And all these mitzvahs are given to us by God. The 10 Commandments, I often ask Jews who tell me they are proud Jews, and they could quote so many different things. They could quote ball score, the scores of ball games. They could quote all these things. I say, you're a proud Jew? Please tell me the 10 Commandments in their order, and you'd be surprised how many are not able to do that. And this is what we read in this portion, that the 10 Commandments is the principles of Judaism. We should all know them, at least in their order by heart. In this week's portion, we also have the first portion of the Shema, which carries so many mitzvahs. But in the Tefillin, it says, Ukshartem la'ois al yadecha, v'hayu l'taytofes beinenecha, which means you should tie the Tefillin as a sign on your heart, on your arm, and they should be frontlets between your eyes. Which is mentioned first? The hand Tefillin. And this also, our Rebbe teaches us, is a very important principle, especially in today's generation. You meet many, many people who say, I am ready to undertake to keep Torah mitzvahs, but please explain to me the reasons. If only I could understand them better, then I would be able to keep them with enthusiasm. And if I understand them, then I'm ready to do them. You know what the Tefillin says? The head is the understanding, the arm, the hand is the action. What do we do first? You have to bind them on your hand. Your hand comes first. The action comes before the intellect. And the Rebbe says that is the way of life. Can you imagine if you have a little baby and you're about to feed him and he says, Chap nisht, 1 minute, hold that applesauce. I'm not eating it until I understand what the applesauce does for me. You tell the child, Hezekiah, right now, it's better that you do it. Eat the applesauce. You're still too immature to understand how healthy and important it is for your survival. Once you've grown and you're more mature, then you'll understand what the benefit of food does for you. And that is a general rule in life that we are being told here with Tefillin. And that is that the action comes before. If we don't do the action, we may never become spiritually enough to be able to do it. That is the important lesson of Tefillin. Start with the commitment to fulfill the mitzvahs, regardless of your understanding and feeling about them. Pledge to serve God because He gave us those commandments. And then we put on our head Tefillin to delve into each mitzvah. And he goes on to tell us that the first thing we do, every person does in the morning, is we say the Moda Ani when we wake up. In fact, a delivery guy once asked the Rebbe's mother, what is her son's favorite prayer? And she said, that's a good question. I don't know. But the next day that my son visits me, I'll ask him. And that is what happened. And when he came back, she said, my son told me my favorite prayer, said the Lubavitcher Rebbe, is saying the Moda Ani, to thank God for returning our soul and declaring our belief in God's ownership and power over everything. After we have placed ourselves in this humble mindset, we can begin the day with davening and learning. And that is such an important lesson in life as the Jews accepted the Torah. The other nations wanted to know what it says in the Torah before they accepted it. The Jews said, Na'aseh v'nishma. We are ready to obey whatever God tells us to do. And then we will study and understand what it is. The word for eschanan means, and I prayed, but there are many expressions of prayer in Judaism. Why is the word for eschanan used? Says Rashi, because it says matnas chinam. This is a gift for no reason at all, even if I am undeserving. The portion starts with Moshe Rabbeinu pleading and praying with God for the opportunity to enter into Israel. He could have said, as many as of us do, God, I deserve it. I do so much for you. That's the least you could do for me. Moshe could have said that. After all, he was a loyal shepherd of the Jewish people for 40 years, taking them out of Egypt all the way to the land of Israel. But he said, for Eschanan, I asked God, you owe me nothing. Everything you have done for me and you continue to do for me is so much more than I deserve. I'm just pleading with you. Do me the favor and do it whether I am deserving or not. That should be our approach as well. The beautiful Haftarah is, as I mentioned, the beginning of what is called the Shiva de Nechemta, the 7 Haftarahs of comfort. Interestingly enough, the Haftarahs came about because the Torah reading was banned in the shuls by a certain king, and the sages didn't want the Jews to forget the Torah reading, so they took a portion that was similar to the weekly portion. They took it of the prophets, and that became the Haftarah. So these 7 weeks, if you look at Maimonides, the Rambam, have their own Haftarah, which is similar to the portion of the week. And yet the later sages said, no, this period between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah, which is 7 weeks exactly, we should rather read what is called the Shiva de Nechemta, 7 weeks of comfort, which lead up to the most beautiful prophecies of Moshiach. And this Haftarah begins with the words, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Comfort you, my people. We need a double measure of comfort for what we have been through. And in this Haftarah, the prophet consoles the Jewish people and foretells what it will be when Moshiach comes and how God's glory will truly be revealed to all, and that we will all be lovingly led out of Golus, which is something that the portion really, in a way, began with Moshe Rabbeinu's pleading to God that he should be able to go into Israel. The Talmud relates that why was Moshe Rabbeinu not given the answer to his prayer to go into Israel? One reason is because had Moshe gone into Israel and he would be the one to build the holy temple, it would be of such a level of holiness that it could never be destroyed. Sadly enough, the Jewish people will sin one day, and then God will have to reprimand them, and he would have the following choice: either destroy the temple or destroy the Jewish people. Had Moshe been the one to build the temple, that option wouldn't have been. The temple would have been remaining, but the Jewish people would not. And when Moshe heard that, he withdrew his plea to go in, because he sacrificed everything for our nation. But the time has come with Shabbos Nachemu that the Almighty should finally send his comfort to all of us. We have gone through enough in the exile. The time has come for Mashiach speedily in our day. And in conclusion, I want to point out that last Shabbos was Tisha B'Av. Friday is Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, considered the time of our great joy of Shidduchim. It doesn't have to take us long to get up again. No matter how low we have fallen, we get up like a lion speedily and look forward to joy and to Mashiach. May it be speedily in our day. Thank you.